Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. This is the Belizean Affairs Show number 315. And my name is Leonard Brackett. I'll be your host for tonight, being Friday. We'll be discussing some constitutional and legal matters. And I don't see any of my other co hosts or panelists in the background yet. So I'll just, in the interest of time, I'll just carry on. Uh, I'll start the program with a short prayer, after which I'll do a short reading. Divine loving Father, thou who art our Creator and the Creator of heaven and earth and all that in them are, into thy hands we commend ourselves, asking that thou would accept our humble expression of gratitude and thankfulness to thee for giving us the opportunity to be alive today among our family members and friends. Please continue to guide and protect and bless us. Please bless this country of the United States of America, its people and leadership. Please bless my country of Belize, its people and leadership as well. Please continue to have mercy upon those people who are in tornadoes, earthquakes, volcano eruptions, and hurricanes, and all manner of pestilence and devastation on the face of this earth, including those people who are in war zones. Please have mercy upon them. Those people who have need of food and clothes and shelter, please provide for them as well. For us these mercies in Jesus' name. And please bless the show tonight. For us these mercies in thy Son's name. Amen. Thank you very much. I'll just proceed to do a short reading as well. Let's see. Quick reading here. Okay. We will read Psalms number 146, which goes as read. Praise ye the Lord. Praise the Lord, O my soul. While I live, will I praise the Lord. I will sing praises unto my God while I have any being. Amen. Uh, it's unfortunate that we still do have an excessive amount of traffic accidents happening in our country, and we don't know how we're going to get about having people being a little bit more cautious, be more uh, concerned about their own well-being and the well-being of others, and to stop some of these people from drinking and driving, and from not maintaining their vehicles, ending up with fires on the road with overheated engines and many other situations. But we'll persist to ask those who are drivers to be conscientious of the health and well-being of others who are drivers as well, and other individuals who are non-drivers who happen to be using the roads and the streets, and whose lives and health and well-being needs to be taken into consideration by the occupants of vehicles. So thank you very much for that. If you spare me a minute, I'll just try to launch this other format here, because we have other people that listen to us on other platforms and other formats. And I just want to take about 90 seconds to see if I can launch their section of the program so they can be with us as well. Okay. Just bear with me for a second, please. Okay. Just a little bit more. Uh, just spare me another few seconds and I'll be right there. 5. Okay. So, one more opportunity here. Let's get this done. Okay. I'm just pulling up my materials for the show. And I need to go to the section for tonight. It's the 50. 151. Okay. That's right. Okay, we did that last week, so the executive. Okay. Three 64. Just a second. Okay. One more. I need to do one more thing here quickly. I need to pull up a copy of the Constitution so I can make sure I do the comparative readings. Okay. Here we go. And then I'm supposed to be looking at section 30. Yep. Got it right. Okay. The executive part 5. Okay. The last time we dealt with the PCC recommendations We spoke about the Governor General, the powers of the Governor General, the powers of the executive, and who are the executive in the country, how they derive their powers, and how they are supposed to exercise them. Tonight, I want to deal with section part 5 of the Constitution, and the recommendations that was made by the PCC as regards to recommendation number 63, establish the executive authority. 63.1 reads as follows: repeal section 36.1 of the Constitution of Belize and replace with the executive authority of Belize is vested in the Prime Minister, who is head of state and head of government, who chooses 12 ministers who shall form the cabinet. Now, you may recall on previous occasions we have said that the reason why the politicians that we have currently running our country decided to embark on this agenda to rehaul or overhaul the Constitution or eviscerate it is because they had ulterior motives. That it was not the public that told them that they wanted their Constitution changed and that they should go about doing as the public wish. They were the one that wanted to change the Constitution to grab additional powers and to immunize themselves from the criminal conduct that they have been carrying on. And by grabbing these additional powers, they will not have the Constitution the way it is, because they will change the Constitution to make it be the way they want it to be. So now, instead of the Governor General, instead of having a head of state and a Governor General, they are now proposing the current Prime Minister will be taking over those powers of both head of state and Governor General, as well as the office of the Prime Minister. I hope people understand what I just said. So I'll just repeat it for the hell of it, you know. As a matter of fact, let's let me read it to be specific. Recommendation number 63 is establishment of the executive authority. That is, right now we have an executive authority. Okay? But that executive authority is vested, as the Constitution of Belize would say when I go to read it in another few minutes, that authority is vested in His Majesty, who deputizes the Governor General with some of those powers to then be transferred on to whoever wins the general elections to come to the Governor General to get assented to and the privilege to exercise some of those powers. As the Constitution says, some of those powers may be exercised by subordinate officers to the Governor General. The present Prime Minister and his cabal is saying, to hell with that. We don't subscribe to that. So we're going to overthrow the system as is, and we're going to create one system. That is that we don't mind sedition being committed, but we are not, as the politicians, going to say we want to do that ourselves. We're going to create what is called a PCC, which is the People's Constitution Commission, hide behind the people's clothing, because the emperor, according to them, they have no clothes on, they're not fully dressed, and they don't want to be seen for really what they are, or what is it that they're trying to do. That is, to empower the citizens of the country to act as sovereign citizens, to help them grab the power from the existing head of state, that is, to commit sedition on their behalf. And now when the public commit that sedition now on the behalf of those who don't want to put their neck out, it is those who don't want to put their neck out will inherit that power. Normally, how that is done is by the overthrow of the system through some military means and or through a plebiscite or a voting, the people voting to decide that that's the way they want to have their matters resolved and dealt with. But these jackals and hyenas and vultures are predators. They want to use you, the body of you, the general populace of the country, to hide behind, for you to help them grab the power, then turn around and use that power worse than they have been using it so far. Because we all know how it's been so far. From Independence Day till today, some 40-odd years, they have been given the power of governance, and they have not given us good governance. All they have done is help themselves to the treasury and the assets of the nation to give to themselves and their cronies, to become millionaires and multi-millionaires before they leave office. And the affairs of state is left languishing, unattended to, and the country keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And none of them, even though we have laws that says that there's not supposed to be any kind of embezzlement, and no officer of the state supposed to be doing any self-enrichment with the assets of the state, they don't prosecute them state. I've never seen where a politician is being prosecuted and sent to jail for the crimes that they commit. They all get off scot-free. And no government prosecutes the previous government that committed any of the crime. What they do is they learn from what the previous one did, and they go in and they do worse. And the next one come and do worse than the previous one. And that's the chain of succession that we have had in our country. Every successive government from the independence till today date have used, misused, and abused the powers vested in them and powers not vested in them. As a matter of fact, they have been so rogue to the point of going to the House, creating legislation and laws to basically trump the Constitution, which is not valid. Because the Constitution says under Section 2 that any other law that is inconsistent with the Constitution is null and void. But they don't care. They go ahead and they make these laws knowing that they're not legal anyhow, and they hide behind it and commit crimes under the color of law against the general public. You have a lot of people going to jail for different criminal conduct according to how it's being defined by them. And now, for example, when the judges rule against the government to say that they have been committing crimes, they have been bastardizing the Constitution, they have been punitive to people without any regards to what the laws stipulates or says. Now they want to go back and make additional laws that retroactively excuses the crimes that they had committed against people in the past, that they don't want nobody to take them to court and be held accountable for their criminal conduct. So they're going to make retroactive laws now to stop people from being able to sue them. And to make the law, make the wrongs that they did in the past, be exculpated. But it's not like if they're going to change now and start do better, because they go back and make additional onerous laws to criminalize activities that are, according to the Constitution, constitutional rights of the people. The rights of speech, the right of association, religious rights, the rights for an education, the right for health, all our basic rights are being trampled on. And then they go and make what you call state of emergencies so that they can take away people's fundamental civil and basic rights under the so-called state of emergency status. Because without declaring a state of emergency, they're not supposed to be able to trample on people's basic rights or human rights. But they don't care. They go ahead and do what they need to do to pretend that they are being lawful, when in fact they're acting as scofflaws, violating the Constitution, and treating the people with a sense of dismissiveness and disdain. So now, here comes the Prime Minister. He doesn't appreciate the powers vested in him as Prime Minister to be able to run the country and the free hand to run the country. They want to aggregate more powers onto themselves. They want to become judge, jury, and executioner all in one. The last time I saw or looked at Belize, we were still considered to be a democratic country. We were a parliamentary democracy. We hadn't become an autocratic republic where any given government at any given time that is in place can rule with an iron fist, can strip people of any basic fundamental civil rights with impunity at that. But that's where we are heading. Section 63(1) of their recommendation says, repeal Section 36(1) and replace with the executive authority of Belize is vested in the Prime Minister, who is head of state. Well, at least not yet. Because right now, there's no such thing as the Prime Minister being head of state. Okay? So they're hoping to repeal the powers of the head of state and then vest that in the Prime Minister. If they have been acting so rogue and so as a cabal of rogue kleptocrats so far, how do you think they're going to act if they ever acquire these type of powers? Unchecked powers, without the civilians having any authority or power over them. The powers will be vested in the Prime Minister, who is head of state and head of government, who choose 12 ministers who shall form the cabinet. Now, normally, under the present status, the designated Prime Minister, after the general election, the leader of the group that wins the majority becomes the designated Prime Minister. He picks his merry men to become the members of his cabinet, and he go and submit that information to the Governor General, and they go and take their oath of office and service. Thereafter, they go and start run the government any which way they want. And none of what previously had been done has stopped them from running the government in a more appropriate or accountable manner. But that's not good enough. They want to be able to run it in an unchecked manner, without any accountability as such. I'll read 63(2) of their recommendation. It reads like this: repeal Section 36(2) and replace with subject to the provision of provision of this constitution, meaning the new constitution that they are proposing, the executive authority of Belize may be exercised on behalf of the people of Belize, either directly or through the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister, Deputy Minister, or offices subordinate to the Prime Minister. I hope people understand what I just read there just now, okay? That is to say, at that point, they will be calling the Prime Minister, who will also be head of state, okay? For all intents and purposes, the new status that is projected to be after this revision here, which will be cleaned up later on, to not be called a Prime Minister anymore, but being the head of state to be called the President of the future Republic of Belize. And I know a lot of people will probably smile when they hear me say that, because they think I'm just being facetious or just trying to be funny, which in part I am. But I'm just trying to expose their hands, in terms of what is it that they're seeking, where they're going, what is it that they're telling us here, right? They're taking this process step at a time to achieve the ultimate objective that they so desire. And once they have us under their, foot, it's only a matter of how hard they want to press their foot down when they're ready to make their move, I'll proceed to read. Well, they said I'm not going to make any changes. Okay, they're going to, yeah. Okay, they want to repeal Section 36(3) of the Constitution as well, which is not listed here. And they want to replace Section 37 all the way through 49. That is that they don't like the way the Constitution is, and they want to excise or take out all of those sections. 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, all the way through 49. That's a massive amount of stuff that they're going to take out. And there's no clarity as regards to why they're attempting to take out that big section of the Constitution and just dispense with it. Currently, the people of Belize do not know their Constitution. Okay? So they wouldn't know what all these sections are. Okay? What it means, whether it's good or bad or indifferent. But I'll proceed to recommendation number 64 in the interest of time, because as a matter of fact, before I go to 64, I should just, I think I should just go back to the Constitution itself, the Constitution of Belize. I'll take 64 afterwards, but I need to go to the Constitution of Belize to, let me see, this again. Section 36(1), okay. Go to 36. Section 36(1), I got it. Uh-oh. I was at 36(1) just now. Oh, man. I had the stuff listed just now, and I touched the surface of the screen, and it kicked me all the way out to the end of the Constitution itself. And so I got to go back and find that particular section that I was about to read. Please bear with me for a second. Mistakes do happen. Yeah, it's a long way. Okay. 64, I need to go back to 36. Uh, 15, 16, I'm too fast now. 20. I know I'm killing the year time, but I have to find the item. I messed up and I lost it. Okay, so I'm at 34, 35, 36. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so 36, the Constitution of Belize, Part 5, Section 36, relates to the executive, which is what we're dealing with just now in the PCC recommendation as well. And 36.1 reads as follows: the executive authority of Belize is vested in His Majesty. 36.2 says, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, the executive authority of Belize may be exercised on behalf of His Majesty by the Governor General, either directly or through officers subordinate to him. Currently, the Prime Minister and the members of Cabinet are subordinate officers to the Governor General. Okay? That's not how they want people to believe it, and that is not what they want people to then accept hereafter, as soon as they put this stuff in place. They want to change it to what I read before. That is, that the powers then is not vested in the Governor General or in the head of state and through the Governor General anymore. Now, to start with, if the Prime Minister is a subordinate, if the Prime Minister and the ministers of the Cabinet are subordinate officers to the Governor General, and the Governor General is a subordinate officer to the head of state, how can those subordinate officers vanquish the Governor General and vanquish the head of state to then take over the powers of the Governor General and the head of state? Where do they get the authority or the powers vested in them to make those changes and or to assume that they have the right legal authority or powers to constitute themselves into the powers of the head of state? I wish someone would explain that to the general public. Well, I wish other individuals would look at these matters and explain them. When the Constitutional Commission, People's Constitution Commission was going around, they should have been teaching and explaining or articulating or discussing these matters with the people. And all the discussions that they were having should have been broadcast live so that people who are interested and want to know and be involved could understand these matters. So that when they make a recommendation on behalf of the people, if they can get 50% or more of the people to go along with their shenanigans, then they can say, oh, they consulted the people and the people voted and decided that more than 50% of them, was in agreement with these proposals that they are making and these changes that they are trying to implement. They have not had a plebiscite. They have not had what you call a referendum, which is mandated according to the present constitution. No, they just want to go ahead and do what they want and to hell with the constitution requirements or prescripts. Whatever they do should be accepted as being the alternative to the constitution. That's a rogue cabal of individuals operating as a legitimate elected government, with exercising powers and authority beyond their station in life. You cannot have a subordinate officer tell the head of state or the head of government, or you can't have any minister tell the prime minister where to go and jump. That's the prerogative of the prime minister, to tell the minister where to go jump. So these idiots are trying to have it backwards. And presumably, they expect no blowback. They expect no consequence to their misbehavior, as usual. Let me go ahead and read Section 3. Nothing in this section shall prevent the National Assembly from conferring functions on persons or authority other than the Governor General. That is to say, the Governor General is above those other officers because they are subordinate officers. What part of that they don't understand? Well, I don't think they don't understand, I'm going to be kind of facetious now, right? It is not because I think that they don't understand. I believe that they understand. I think that they understand. They just don't give a damn. They just don't care. They're full of themselves and they want to be able to do what they want, and it should be just accepted. Nobody should have any objection to them bastardizing the Constitution, to them acting rogue, to them violating all rights, to them mismanaging the government, and to them carrying on the big hustle on behalf of themselves and their cronies and friends. And if anybody dares to say anything, they want to accuse you of maligning them and or of what they call it, defaming them, right? But how can you defame somebody that doesn't have any fame? When you say "the" in front of the word "frame," of in front of the word fame, it's like you're taking away the fame from the person or the entity. So you're defaming them. You're taking away what is duly and justifiably theirs in their own rights. And the only fame that they have in their own rights, as far as history can show, is to be a hustler, to maximize their hustle. The affairs of governance is nothing of interest to them. So how can you defame somebody whose fame is only about hustling? You can't take away something from somebody that doesn't have it. If he doesn't have it, you can't take it away from him. So how can he claim then that you have taken away something from him that he never had in the first place? Proceed to read another little part here, 37, section 37 of the Constitution of Belize, under part 4 and part 5. And it says, 37.1 reads as follows: there shall be a Prime Minister of Belize who shall be appointed by the Governor General. Now, they want to take all of that out too as well. That's one of those, remember just now when I read to you in their proposal that they want to take out the whole big section of the Constitution? That's part of what they want to take out. Because if they were able to implement the new Constitution the way they're trying to have it done, they will have no need for this, because then there would be no Governor General, or there will be no head of state other than themselves. But they fail to understand that once they put that process in place and another entity comes into power, that is to say, themselves might be removed from power, and the system that we know today will not be in place anymore, and the new system that they have in power will be inherited by whoever moves them out of power. Do you think they might be the worst of the worst? Does anybody realize that there could be worse people than the ones that are giving us the kind of government that we currently have, that we are so disenchanted with? But who will suffer? Who will deal with the afterclaps? Let me read the stuff. Under section 2 of the same section, under subsection 2 of the same section 37, it reads as follows: whenever the Governor General has occasion to appoint a Prime Minister, he shall appoint a member of the House of Representatives who is the leader of the political party which commands the support of the majority of the members of that House. And if no political party has an overall majority, that is to say, there's a split between the two leading groups, then the governor general, he or she, the governor general, shall appoint a member of the House who appears likely to command the support of the majority of the members of that House. It goes on to say, provided that no person shall be appointed as the Prime Minister who has previously held the office of the Prime Minister for 3 parliamentary terms, either consecutively or in aggregate. And for this purpose, the expression parliamentary terms shall mean the period commencing on the date of the first sitting of the National Assembly after a general election and expiring at the date of the next ensuing dissolution of the National Assembly. I go on to subsection 3. If occasion arises for making an appointment of the office of Prime Minister while the National Assembly is dissolved, then, notwithstanding the provisions of subsection 2 above of this section, a person who was a member of the House of Representatives immediately before the dissolution may be appointed as Prime Minister. That is to say, if the previous Prime Minister was termed out, the Governor General has the power to appoint another person as the Prime Minister. Subsection 4 reads as follows. The Governor General shall remove the Prime Minister from office if a resolution of no confidence in the government is passed by the House of Representatives and the Prime Minister does not within 7 days either resign from his office or advise the Governor General to dissolve the National Assembly. Now, those are hefty powers, right? All of that, these guys want to grab onto themselves and re-empower the Prime Minister with those levels of powers. In other words, the Prime Minister will be the Prime Minister of the Prime Minister and the head of state. And the head of state shall be the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister shall be the head of state. That's, for all intents and purposes, all of what those wordings and readings that I've just done implies, according to them, in their proposal. It won't be the way it is today. It will be the way they want it to be. Subsection 5 reads as follows. The office of Prime Minister shall also become vacant, as in the case of paragraph A, which I'll read, if the holder of the office ceases to be a member of the House of Representatives, otherwise than by reason of the dissolution of the National Assembly, or, as in the case of paragraph B, if by virtue of section 59(3) of this Constitution, he is required to cease to perform his functions as a member of the House, or, as in the case of paragraph C, which I'll read as well, which says, if he is informed by the Governor General that the Governor General that the Governor General is, in accordance with subsection 2 or 3 of this section, about to reappoint him as Prime Minister or to appoint another person as Prime Minister. That is the issue of the Governor General can appoint the Prime Minister. The Governor General can sack the Prime Minister and appoint somebody else, and the Prime Minister has to yield. I'll go on to read subsection 6 of the same section 30 I think it was section 36. No, section 37. Yeah. Subsection 6 reads as follows: in exercise of the powers conferred on him by this section, the Governor General shall act in his own deliberate judgment. So you see again, why is it that these guys want to capture that particular power? Because the Governor General is empowered to act in his own deliberate judgment and not the judgment of anyone else. Why? The Governor General is acting or serving at the pleasure of the head of state. And the Governor General is just transferring powers executive-wise to the administration or to the administrative powers of the day-to-day running of the government, who or which is accountable to the Governor General. So the executive powers of the Governor General or the executive powers of the head of state transferred to the Governor General to facilitate the head of governance and or the people that are running government on a day-to-day basis, to authorize them as subordinate to him or her to perform the required functions on behalf of the population or on behalf of the country. And these people have to comply with certain constitutional requirements and certain laws. But they don't want to comply with no constitutional requirements or any law. They want the law to be whatever comes out of their head on any given day. They want to act rogue. They want to act capriciously. I'll go on to read section 38 of the Constitution of Belize, which deals with the appointment of a deputy prime minister. It reads as follows: the Governor General shall, comma, acting in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister, comma, designate a minister of the cabinet as deputy prime minister, to whom the prime minister may from time to time depute, that is to deputize, such of the prime minister's functions as he may specify, or you'd say as he may see fit or need. We go on to read the last one, which is 39. Because remember, they had proposed to take out all of these sections, right? Excise them from the present constitution or in the new constitution that they want to create. So that, in other words, the constitution will not be saying these things. It will be silent on these particular matters or facts or administrative process or procedures or protocols. Because, like I say, from day to day, the new constitution then will be whatever comes out of the minister's head in terms of the power and authority vested in those particular ministers. It's about power grabbing without any regards for the well-being of the state as a whole and the people in general. It's about power grab to immunize themselves from any potential kickback. They cannot be sued because, according to them now, the way they want to put the Supreme Court in a box, that the Supreme Court will not have the powers and jurisdiction that it currently enjoys under this present constitution, because they will have another commission that the Prime Minister will appoint 5 members to decide what is constitutional or not. and the courts or the judiciary will be neutered or castrated, or powers will be removed. They will not be able to answer to or take any kind of judicial review in regards to any matters of state. At the most, they probably will be able to deal with civil tort matters. That's what they will be relegated to, not an equal branch of government as is currently stipulated in our constitution under the Separation of Powers Act, which stipulates 3 branches of government, the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive or administrative. But let's finish up the reading because it's I need to speed up a little bit more. 39 section 39 of the Constitution of Belize reads as follows. 39 subsection 1. Whenever the Prime Minister is absent from Belize or is by reason of illness unable to perform the functions conferred on him by the Governor General in accordance with the Constitution, these functions that he is supposed to perform, other than the functions conferred by this section, shall be performed. That is, they are to be performed by this. Okay, let me continue reading. Just let me stay with. The more comments I make, the longer the process becomes. I make some of these comments because, like I said, and I understand, most people don't know their constitution, and even if they're hearing this for the first time, there's the need to contextualize some of it and add additional comments on it for elucidation purposes or for clarification or educational purposes. If you don't know something, you need to be educated about it, or you need to be exposed to it, and the information needs to be brought to your level. So that is part of the process that I'm doing right now. It's not that I'm giving any words to the Constitution and or that I'm giving any life to the Constitution or anything of that nature. I'm just going through the process of exposing what the Constitution says for itself. Because that's what these guys are trying to change. They're trying to change what the Constitution says. By taking out parts here, there, and everywhere, replacing those parts, and every time the Constitution gets changed, there's no reference to the previous constitutional status. Because when it gets changed, what it becomes then is the law of the land, according to these guys. As a matter of fact, that's the way it's supposed to be. But the point is that when they make laws, they're not supposed to make onerous laws, or bogus laws, or unconstitutional laws, or illegal laws. Well, that sounds funny, right? For something to be illegal and still be a law. But that's how these guys roll. When they go to the House and make laws, they're supposed to make those laws within the bounds of the Constitution, not outside the bounds of the Constitution. Because the Constitution says that any other laws that is outside the bounds of the Constitution, that is inconsistent with the Constitution, to the extent of its inconsistency, is null and void. But they don't care. Because they get these jackal judges from abroad to come and implement those laws and make judgment based on those bastardized laws. And who gets affected by it? The politicians are not in court answering to any devious stuff that they do or wrongs that they do. But you, the Belizean people, are in court regularly for all type of, small puny stuff. Okay? In fact, you even have the police authority exercising criminal conduct under the color of law, beating up unarmed civilians who are arrested for whatever reason, whether justified or not. They have to conduct themselves as judge, jury, and executioner on the spot by criminal conduct, having people with handcuffs on them and punching them and slapping them and kicking them and whopping them with clubs. And that's all right. Their criminal conduct can be excused. Why? Because they're supposed to be the lawmen. And by being the lawmen, then that means that, okay, well, they're above the law. That's baloney. Those police officers that we see misconducting themselves should be brought up and dealt with, and or, as a matter of fact, should be sued, taken to court, and have the court deal with them just as well. But it doesn't happen. The system is being bastardized on a regular basis. That's why these people behave the way they behave, with impunity. I'll proceed to read okay. I'll just reread section 39 because I read part of it and I commented in the middle of it and didn't finish the whole reading. So I'll just reread it to make sure that people are hearing it in context as is. 39, section 39 of the Constitution of Belize, subsection 1 reads as follows. Whenever the Prime Minister is absent from Belize or is, by reason of illness, unable to perform the functions conferred on him in accordance with this Constitution, those functions, other than the functions conferred by this section, shall be performed, as in the case of paragraph A, it says performed by the Deputy Prime Minister, or as in the case of paragraph B, in the absence of the Deputy Prime Minister, or if he too is likewise unable to perform the functions that are delegated to him by the Prime Minister, on behalf of the Prime Minister, by such other ministers as the Governor General may authorize for that purpose. And subsection 2 of that same section reads as follows. The Deputy Prime Minister shall cease to perform the functions of the Prime Minister when he is informed by the Governor General that the Prime Minister is about to resume those functions. And under subsection 3, it stipulates a minister authorized to perform the functions of the Prime Minister under subsection 1, paragraph B of this section shall cease to perform those functions when he is informed by the Governor General that the Deputy Prime Minister is about to assume, or that the Prime Minister is about to resume those functions. So it's very clear. But all of that they want to throw out the door because apparently it's not clear enough for what they want to do or for what they're trying to hide behind. Okay. I proceed to read subsection 4. It says, the powers of the Governor General under this section shall be exercised by him or her in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister, provided that if the Governor General, acting in his own deliberate judgment, considers that it is impracticable to obtain the advice of the Prime Minister owing to the absence of or illness of the Prime Minister, he may exercise These powers, such as in case of paragraph A of this same section, in accordance with the advice of the Deputy Prime Minister, or, as in the case of paragraph B in the same section, if he likewise considers it impracticable to obtain the advice of the Deputy Prime Minister in his own deliberate judgment. We have section 40 here, and I'm going to yield back from section 40 and leave that for another occasion, a further reading. I want to go back to the. Oh, no. Oh, shucks. Okay. Let me see. Holy mackerels. Okay. So, yeah, I want to go back to the PCC recommendations that we were talking about just now. And I think it was that. So let me turn it sideways for a minute. Okay. So now we go back to where I left off. I'm reading out of the PCC recommendations, and I'm going to be reading recommendation number 64. That is to establish the direct election of the Prime Minister. That is part of the proposal. And 64.1 reads as follows: the Prime Minister shall be elected by direct vote every 4 years on the date the last Wednesday of November, and assumes office January of the subsequent year. Now, that's part of the new recommendation by the PCC. I'll read the second part of that, which is part 2, section 2. It says the executive branch shall include the following functions and powers. Now, remember, the way it is currently, we have an executive and we have the administrative. The Prime Minister and the ministers are all in the administrative portions of government, okay? The executive powers comes from the head of state through a governor general who serves at the pleasure of the head of state. And that power is to be granted for administrative purposes of the state to the administration that governs and runs the state on a day-to-day basis. So I hope people are understanding the difference between what I'm trying to explain here right now, okay? The executive and the administrative are two different entities, two different elements. The Prime Minister administers the affairs of state on a day-to-day basis and is accountable to the Governor General, who assents to the administrative portion of the Prime Minister's cabinet prime minister and cabinet and the other people who are in different government departments under their guidance on a day-to-day basis. Let me read what they're saying here now under their proposal, okay? That was recommendation number 64. I read section 1, and I'm about to read section 2. The executive branch shall include the following functions and powers. Now, right there, you understand right away that they have changed from the administrative or from the administration or the government administration has changed from being an administration, from administering, from managing the day-to-day affairs of the country. They are now assuming the posture and position and authority of the executive. Remember, I tried to clarify both of those different things for you just now, right? But now their recommendations here is to conflate and include both executive and administrative, as if to say they're one and the same. And it is then, according to them, and I'm going to read it, the new powers of the executive conflated as being executive and administrative, two in one, like they will say, we believe that, the Holy Trinity. Now, this is the Holy Duo or the Holy Double, right? The Holy Executive and the Holy Administrative conflated into being one and the same, or being God. Under paragraph 8, it says the Prime Minister acts as the head of state and the commander-in-chief of all the armed forces whose offices he shall commission. He is responsible for implementing and enforcing the laws passed by the National Assembly. Before the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation as prescribed by the Schedule X. I do solemnly swear or affirm, whichever one, that I will faithfully execute the office of the Prime Minister of Belize and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend Belize and the Constitution of Belize. That's a mouthful. I would like to go into it some more, but if I do so, I'm going to run out of time because there are some other paragraphs to this. So I'll just keep reading a little bit more. Paragraph B says, the Prime Minister shall nominate, subject to the approval of the Senate by simple majority, all ministers, Attorney General, deputy ministers, chairman of government statutory boards, chairman of commissions, heads of department, governor of the central bank, judges, magistrates, ambassadors, and other officials who are vetted and approved by the majority of the, let me see, I have to go to another page. Give me a second. Majority of the Senate of the National, majority of the Senate of the National Assembly. No person appointed by the Prime Minister shall be a member of the National Assembly. And then it goes on to paragraph C. But before I go to paragraph C, I read you paragraph A and B just now. And in those two groupings, particularly the part that regards to the Prime Minister shall appoint judges, and magistrates. Does anybody understand what that implies as regards to our current separation of powers and three equal branches of government? That is to say, the judges and the magistrates will now be appointed and be beholden to the Prime Minister's will. That is not what our Constitution prescribes so far. I don't know. I wish a few more of our Belizean lawyers and other elites in the society would take on part of this task to expound on some of these matters and provide additional clarity and voice so people can hear, learn, and understand and know. Be sensitized enough to the realities of what is it that these people are proposing to do compared to what they think they know that we are currently able to do. Because I'm telling you, Belizeans at home and abroad, don't take my word for it, but I'm still trying to tell you what apparently you're not trying to tell yourself or learn so you can tell yourself and tell others. You're up the creek without a paddle. I don't know. I shouldn't have to go there. I don't know. Sad. It's sad, real sad. People are struggling from day to day trying to scratch out survival, and yet they have to contend with this type of onerous conduct on the part of those people who you vote into office and entrust your livelihood and the livelihood of your family and friends, only to have them betray you in this kind of way. Treacherous people that come to you with smiles. Vote for me, I'll give you a $50 or $100, or I'll get you a piece of land, or I'll fix your house, or I'll do something for you. Vote for me. When you vote for them and you put them in office and they acquire that ascension from the Governor General to have the powers to administer your affairs, they go and administer those affairs, not as your affairs, but as their affairs. They paid you that $50 and that $100 to get your vote, and they don't owe you anything after that. They see you on the street, they don't even recognize you or have the time to stop and say good morning, good evening, or any time of the day or whatever. You have been paid for, you have been bought with that $50 and $100 and $300, $400, $500 or whatever amount of dollars they give you. They bought you, so they own you. So they relate to you and dispose of you any which way they choose, while fattening themselves at the trough, regardless of the laws that we have to say that they're not supposed to do that. What can you do about it? Nothing. You have been paid. You have been bought. So then you take that $50 or $100 and wait till the next 5 years for them to come around needing your vote again to offer you another 100 or 200. And the cycle continues. In the meantime, for the next 5 years after each election, you're going through all kind of punishment and issues. And it's been going on too long. Too long. And look like some people, they relish in that kind of situation. I'll just attempt to read section. I did section C just now. Did I? I think I did. Okay. Okay. I'll read section C, paragraph C of the same section. It goes on to say, the Prime Minister shall receive heads of state, ambassadors, and other public ministers and he shall have power subject to the approval of the Senate to make treaties, covenants, conventions, agreements, protocols, regional and international organizations, provided 2/3 of the Senate present concurs and approves such agreements. In other words, the Prime Minister, under this particular paragraph, is adding additional powers unto himself. Okay? And those powers will be powers that is not vested in him currently, that is in the purview and under the authority and aegis of the plebiscite of the country. They want to grab those powers too. And they want to exercise those powers on your behalf without your consent, just by them deciding what they want to do, how they want to do it, when they want to do it. To hell with you. Am I saying something that doesn't go like that? Let's read on. Paragraph D. The office of the Prime Minister shall consist of his Chief of Staff, the immediate staff, the Office of Finance, Management, and Budget, and the Office of Trade. He shall provide a budget for their approval by the National Assembly, and each minister shall provide a full record on all activities of their ministries to the National Assembly at the end of every fiscal year. Now remember, there's a requirement for them to provide information on a regular basis so that the Auditor General can audit and provide information so that the general public can see and know where the money is spent, what money is not being spent right, or what kind of hanky. It shouldn't have to be that it takes Jules Vasquez and other reporters to bring out in public all the disgraceful contracts, bloated contracts, and illegal contracts at that. Even the Prime Minister has now acknowledged, after being caught and being pinned against the wall and being proven to have all kind of dastardly conduct going on inside of his ministry. And he is then claiming that he didn't know, he doesn't know anything about it. Now finding himself rescinding contracts after having paid out big amount of money on those contracts to their own cronies. These things shouldn't be happening. We have laws against it currently on the book. I don't even want to read the rest of what's being proposed in that section because it's all, gratuitous. They stipulate or they speak nice, but their conduct is reprehensible. Okay, so I did read the Constitution as far as those parts are concerned just now. So I'll go into recommendation number 65. I have about 11 minutes left for the program tonight. So I'll try and tackle recommendation number 65. This recommendation number 65 deals with the qualifications and the disqualifications of Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister. And it's kind of long. I don't know if I should take it on right now because I won't have enough time to be able to But let's try. So number 65 says, no person shall be qualified to be elected or continue to be elected as Prime Minister or Deputy Prime Minister who, according to paragraph A, which I'm about to read, is by virtue of his own act under any acknowledgement of allegiance, obedience, or adherence to a foreign power, state, international organizations, or community. I'll explain what that means a little bit, or I'll elaborate a little bit on that, because that goes to part of the same thing that they were trying to use in proposed Amendment 7 of the Constitution of Belize, where they were trying to say that Belizeans who go abroad and who acquire dual citizenship cannot then participate in the political affairs of the country, which is not what the Constitution says as of right now. Okay? But that is what they propagate and try to get the people to believe. And that is the reason why proposed Amendment 7 was being bantered around or discussed. Because all Belizeans, especially born Belizeans, are equal under the law. Whether you're in Belize, whether you're abroad, whether you go and come from Belize, the Constitution says that all Belizeans are equal under the law. And the government nor any other authority has the right to infringe on any of your rights vested in you as a born Belizean. You can go and come in and out of the country or in any part of the country. You have the right to become a dual citizen if the other country permits it, without you losing your rights that is constitutionally vested in you. But they don't want Belizeans who go abroad and acquire a little bit of extra knowledge and see the rest of the world and understand how the rest of the world operates to come back home and make any demands on the government in terms of their rascal behavior. They don't want empowered Belizeans to come back home with that level of empowerment and self-assurance and ability to hold their own. They want Belizeans that are subservient. So what do, they divide and conquer. They write a bogus law that is unconstitutional, and they put it on the book. And unless you're going to fight them all the way to the Supreme Court, to the appellate court, and to the regional jurisdiction court of the Caribbean Court of Justice, then you're subject to those bastardized laws that they put on the book. And they propagate the idea among the rest of the population in the country to divide and conquer, to say, well, those who left or who are not at home are not as much Belizeans as those who stay home. As if to say that those who left, whether it was because of economic reasons and their support in the country and sending back their money to the country, are only as important as the amount of money that they can send back. Otherwise, there's no need for them, only their money. That unto itself is another bastardization of what is actually legal and permissible, or what should be permissible. So now they're saying that the Prime Minister will have the authority, and Cabinet will have the authority, not the legislator anymore, because under the present Constitution, it is the legislator that can decide to change the law and empower the administrators them to follow certain policies of state as legislated by the legislator to make these type of determinations. What basically they're intimating here in this particular section is that, okay, let me read it. It is by virtue of this, of his own act, under any acknowledgement or allegiance or obedience or adherence to a foreign power. That is, for example, if as a Belizean you come out here and you come to the United States and you get a dual citizen after whatever process you have to go through and effort and time and whatever else not that you have to endure to be accepted in America as a dual citizen means that you have no right, or you have lost or given up some rights according to them just because you swear allegiance to the United States of America to get your dual citizen, which the Constitution of Belize permits. It authorizes, it enshrines in the Constitution that you are able to do that as a Belizean without losing your citizenship and or any of your rights that comes with that citizenship. But these jackals, they play loose and fast with the system, and they make these kind of backhanded, bastardized constitutional amendments or changes to justify their criminal conduct. That is, to strip you of your rights. I think I'm almost at the time for quitting, so I knew I wasn't going to have enough time for the whole of this. I think I might have to just leave it off and come back at another appointed time and discuss the rest of it, because I do need to read a part of the Constitution that relates to this particular matter here right now. I think that's, let me see if I can find it quickly. Yeah. So that's number 65 I dealt with there. And next time when I come back, I hope I can remember it's number 66 that we need. Well, we didn't finish 65 anyhow, like I said. I just need to switch out of this file for the, and try to go back and find the, okay, so I lost that, so I have to retrieve it. Let me see if I can retrieve it. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I need to go back then. I'm in the Constitution of Belize now. I came out of the PCC records, and I'm going back now. Oops. I hope I don't get to lose this, because that would be sad. I'll be wasting a whole lot of my extra time. I need to go back, I think, to section 20, citizenship 20 something. Let's see. 25, 27. The following. Okay. So I think it's 27. Yeah. Okay. A citizen of Belize, let me just turn it sideways. Let me turn it sideways so I can read it a little bit more legible. Let's see. Yeah. I'm back into the Constitution of Belize, electronic version, and I'm going to read section 27, which goes as follows. A citizen of Belize by birth or descent who accrues the citizenship of any other country may, okay, the Constitution is granting you or authorizing you, or it's codifying, or in other words, it's enshrining your rights as compared to what I just said to you earlier when I was reading the PCC expected changes to deprive you of those rights. Jackals. I'll read 27. I didn't finish it, but I'll read it again. And I'm going to try and read the whole thing through without making comments quickly because time is getting away from me. Section 27 of the Constitution of Belize says, a citizen of Belize by birth or descent who acquires the citizenship of any other country, such as I described earlier, Belizeans, Americans, may, if the laws of the other country so permit, and at the citizen's options, remember now, this is your own option. The Constitution codifies, okay? It enshrines that right to you, not to the government, not to these jackals that are making those bastardized laws. I said I wasn't going to comment, but it's just frustrating to know that, playing fast and loose with people that know their rights. That person can retain his citizenship of Belize. And as a citizen of Belize, you're entitled to all the rights of any other Belizean. Because it also says that no Belizeans should be discriminated against. All Belizeans are equal under the law. Okay? And these jackals, they know exactly what I'm saying because a lot of them in cabinet are lawyers. But they refuse to do the right thing. They prefer to continue as scofflaw because nobody arrests them and send them to jail for their misconduct. Section 28 reads as follows. Let's see. Yeah, I'm already past my time now by a couple of minutes. So I'll just read off just a few and then hope to close the program thereafter. Section 28, subsection 1 reads as follows. The National Assembly may make provisions not inconsistent with this part in respect of citizenship, including provisions for, and these provisions that the National Assembly is being authorized to be able to make here is not regarding born Belizeans. It's regarding naturalized Belizeans, okay? So please learn and know the difference because I've had this discussion with a bunch of knuckleheads. Sometimes they want to get into debates about issues that they don't learn enough about because they didn't born knowing what they're supposed to try and learn. And then they want to go and argue with people and get into your face and tell you what they think it ought to be or what they think it is. Instead of, first of all, appraise themselves of the facts. The National Assembly may make provisions not inconsistent with this part in respect of citizenship, including provisions for paragraph A, the acquisitions of citizenship of Belize by persons who are not eligible or who are not or no longer eligible to become citizens of Belize under this part. Okay? It doesn't say that the legislator have any right to make any laws to trample on the rights or to dispense with any right or to take away any rights of born Belizeans, whether they are living at home or abroad, or whether they get a dual citizenship from any other country that the other country is willing to accept. They don't teach people these things, so people don't know. So sometimes I just have to, listen to some of the people and make them comment, and just, humor them and just move on. Because what's the sense of arguing with somebody that you know and they have proven to you by virtue of what they're expounding that they don't know what they're talking about? That's only making yourself upset and making yourself aggravated, because then all you're doing is wasting your time. People are entitled to being wrong if they want to be wrong. You can't force nobody to be right. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, ideas, or conclusions, whether right or wrong. So if somebody don't want to learn or know or understand some of these things, there's no sense you beating your head against the wall. Let them learn at their one time when they're ready to absorb the information. If they ever become interested enough to expend the effort. But you can't just get vexed because somebody doesn't want to accept what you're trying to tell them because you think you know what you're telling them and they don't want to accept it or they don't believe it or they haven't learned or known enough to be able to understand it. Let them be. Leave them alone. Let them exercise their own freedom and their own rights. In fact, if you exaggerate, you can let them exercise their right to not be disturbed or be bothered. Let them be. Let me read like I say, I'm beyond my time. Oh, I'm far beyond my time. So the legislator is also entitled to revoke the citizenship of any person referred to in Section 26 of this Constitution. That is, individuals that you give a citizenship to, you can revoke that citizenship for cause. All over the world, you have that. Here in America, you have that. They can give you citizenship. They give you a green card, they can take it back. They give you citizenship, they can take it back. So in Belize, our legislators are empowered to make rules and regulations or statutory, provisions to provide for taking back the citizenship of people who doesn't qualify for it anymore. That is, the people that you give or grant citizenship to or authorize citizenship to. But you can't take away the citizenship of a Belizean. That you don't grant that. No legislator in Belize have the right to take that away. None of them have the right to grant that to you as a born Belizean. You're a born Belizean, you're born there, you're born there. That comes with your birth. I have some discussion with some of these jackals and these people, that really sometimes, and some of them are lawyers, Don't let them hear that I say that, okay? Some of them are lawyers. Some of them are prominent lawyers too, okay? Some of them might cuss me out if they ever get to hear this program. Can I say I'm belittling them and I'm pretending to be a lawyer that is not a member of their bar, and who am I to speak to these legal matters? Well, I'm the same person that I've been speaking to them and trying to encourage them to educate themselves further on these particular issues because they need to help educate the rest of the population. I, as a single individual, can educate the whole of the country. And most of these lawyers, they're not going to do what I'm trying to do here. They haven't and they won't. Why? They are lawyers because that's their profession. They expect to get paid for their services. So if you don't know and you need their services and you can't pay them, tough luck. If you could pay them, you'll get the services that you can pay for. Sometimes, not all the times either. But I need to get out of this because I'm far beyond my time. I need to close it. So we have we have paragraph C, which is the last one. It's very short, and I'm just going to read it and finish up. The renunciation by any person of his citizenship of Belize, whether that person is a born Belizean and or a person that was granted naturalization and citizenship, the legislator has the authority and the power vested in it to accept a Belizean's request, a born Belizean request, to disassociate or to also surrender his citizenship, or to give back his I shouldn't try and get into explaining that because it will take more time than I have, and I need to close out. Belizeans at home and abroad, this has been the Belizean Affairs program number 315. I was the presenter for tonight's program. I hope I didn't babble in your ears too much and confuse you rather than elucidate you. I hope you'll be able to take some positive public benefit from my endeavor or my undertaking. And I would like to say good night. Thank you very much for having spent your time listening to our program while it was live or is live. And hopefully at your own convenience, as I've noticed a lot of people have been doing, they check into the program at their own convenience, especially on weekends, and see what we had to offer. All I want to say is thank you very much for having granted me the opportunity to take up this part of your attention or time, and hopefully I've done justice to your valuable time. God bless Belize and Belizeans at home and abroad, and the rest of humanity. Good night and goodbye.